What's good, my fellow stock market freaks? It's your boy Kevin. Welcome back to the channel and the stock market. Today, we got some big headlines to discuss, some breaking news. We got a big new EV spec. Harley Davidson, the old motorcycle manufacturer, Harley Davidson, coming to market with a new spec, an EV motorcycle company. We're going to be breaking that down. Big news on that front. We have a new vaccine stock. Well, it's not exactly new, but it's under the radar, and they just got some FDA clearance, and they are taking the right steps to get the Rona vaccine to market. We all know the cash cow that the Rona vaccines have been for Moderna, Pfizer, and J&J. Has changed the direction of those companies forever? Well, this company is taking the right steps to get their vaccine to market, and if it happens, it could blow this stock out of the water and send it to you-know-where. Not even going to say where it's going, but you know what I'm talking about. All right, so we have the Fed meeting, has the stock market in the grasp of its hands. Old Jerome Powell has the stock market by the balls, and he can either yank and rip the balls right out of the stock market, or he can be gentle and just caress those balls. Where we have to see what he's going to do, because this is big. The Fed has been propping up the economy and the market. Super low interest rates, all-time low interest rates. It's easy to borrow money. If it's cheap to borrow money, these hedge funds, the hedgies, are going to go buy all the houses on the street because it's easy to borrow money. That has propped up the real estate market. They've also been buying assets via the stock market with this easy to borrow money, which has been also propping up the stock market. If it becomes more expensive to borrow money, these hedge funds are no longer going to be buying every house up that's for sale. You may think as a common consumer that that's a good thing. But if that happens, the real estate market will take a hit. Also, the Fed is going to be laying out the new economic projections. This is important, and it's going to determine the speed of which they taper. Tapering is where they're going to stop buying assets as fast as they have been. The Federal Reserve has literally been buying assets like stocks in order to prop up the economy and prop up the stock market. They're saying they're going to slow that down. That's the process of tapering. This week, starting Tuesday, tomorrow, they're going to be laying it all out, and we need to watch what old boy Jerome is going to do. All right, so the Fed has just been buying up assets like hotcakes. They bought at a clip of $120 billion per month at the peak. Last month, the Fed began winding down this program, slowing its purchases by $15 billion per month in each of November and December, as the economy showed signs that it could continue to recover from the pandemic. So those numbers at its peak, $120 billion per month, slowly dropping down to eventually a more stable level. They can't keep just flooding the economy with money, and we need to do it slowly so you just don't pull the rug out from the market. Big news on the EV front, the EV sector getting a new member, and that is going to be from Harley Davidson, the big motorcycle manufacturer, probably the most well-known motorcycle manufacturer in the world, and they are branching off one of their EV motorcycle companies into its own publicly traded stock. It's called LiveWire. LiveWire is merging with AEA Bridges Impact Corp. All right, so the deal will be financed by ABIC, $400 million from them, with the goal of launching multiple electric motorcycles under the name. The first product of that effort is the LiveWire 1, a $22,000 motorcycle, and it has approximately 145-mile range. We're going to talk about that range in just a second, because that 145-mile range is a little bit misleading. All right, so they branched off their e-bike brand Serial One earlier this year. Same thing they're doing with this LiveWire. The article goes on to talk about the success that companies like Lordstown, Lucid Motors have had using SPACs to go public. And Lucid Motors, Rivian, those are the two most overvalued stocks in the entire market, in my opinion. I think those are just way overpriced. But here with this Harley Davidson spinoff Livewire, I've been waiting for a motorcycle, an EV motorcycle, to hit the streets. One with decent range and one with a good company to back it. And I think Tesla and Harley Davidson have some similarities. Everybody's been looking for the next Tesla to invest in, and that's the wrong move, because Tesla is Tesla because of the cult following that they have. And then they can use that following that they developed from selling really good EV cars and branch off with different product offerings. Look at Tesla Solar. They just launched a little EV quad toy for kids, and there's talks of a Tesla cell phone. Look at Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson also has a cult-like following, and they're doing the same thing, and they're spinning off these brands into their own entities. And Harley Davidson is going to maintain, I saw 75% ownership, or a really high percentage of the company. They're going to maintain it. Let's go look at the Livewire one. Here is a picture of it. Do a little 360 view here of it. But the specs are really not jumping off the page. Okay, so let's go right down to the meat and potatoes of the specs, the range. That's what everybody's going to be looking at, the range here. And the city, 146-mile range, that's decent. That's acceptable. But when you get down to stop and go, 95 miles. And then highway, 70 miles. So we're not there yet. It's pretty obvious to me we're not there yet with the range. And this thing is not going to be selling tons of units because of that highway range. You're not going to be able to travel with this bike. Motorcycle enthusiasts like to travel with their bike, do weekend trips, and drive 2-3 days straight through the country or do whatever. You're not going to be able to do that with this bike. This is going to be for a guy who uses it to commute 20 minutes to work, or somebody who uses it on the weekend as just like a get-around vehicle. It's not going to be used to travel with a 70-mile range. But that range will improve, and Livewire will make a name for itself in the EV space. I'm not really looking to invest in Livewire. What I think is a good deal right now is actually Harley Davidson, because if we look at the numbers, they only have a market cap of $5 billion with sales of $5 billion, a pretty profitable company with net income of $532 million, giving us a price to sales ratio right around 1 and a price to earnings ratio of around 10. That is cheap. That is cheap from today's standards. With all these overvalued stocks out there, Harley Davidson trading at this valuation is a pretty good deal in my opinion, and I'm strongly considering it for a longer term investment. If we look back at Webull, 2 free stocks, a link in the description, valued up to over $2,000. If we look at the chart here, we can see that this thing just broke out of a really long trend. We had a bull flag forming, and we just broke out of that trend, and we'll see if it breaks out. But right here today, under $40 a share, I don't think you can beat it based on a valuation perspective. It's not going to give you those huge, massive runs that a little SPAC can give you, but it's much safer. And a couple years from now, I do not believe Harley Davidson will be trading at $40 a share. I think it'll be more like $60, $70, $80 a share. Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Moderna, the big vax stocks have absolutely raked in the revenue from their products. All right, so let's talk about the numbers. And then we have a new vax stock that has flown under the radar, and they are slowly making progress to getting their vaccine to the market. All right, so Pfizer, Moderna, they reported collective sales of $17.2 billion for their vaxes, but both are expected to report higher third quarter totals in the coming week, a collective $18 billion. All right, Johnson & Johnson reported more than $500 million in third quarter sales, nearly double the $264 million it collected in the first half. So Johnson & Johnson has way more product offerings than the vaccine, but it looks like the vaccine doubled its quarterly revenue from the year prior. So now we move on to a new vax stock. Novavax was a vax stock that made a really nice move when the Rona craze was in its peak. And it has since lost the appeal of investors because it never got their vax to market. But they made a big move today. Shares jumped Monday after the drug maker said it will file a package of data linked to its developing Rona vaccine with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration at the end of the year. Novavax, which delayed its schedule for emergency use authorization approval from the FDA earlier this year, also submitted a filing for a similar permission in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, Monday, following data from late-stage trials in the U.S., Mexico, and the United Kingdom for its Rona vaccine. All right, so we got the monthly chart pulled up, ticker NVAX, and this thing absolutely took off when the Roni was first found out. When we first found out that we were going to be in the business of vaccines, this thing took off from $3.50 a share all the way up to $331 a share. They never got the vaccine to market. It lost its luster and investors sold. Now we're trading at 170. What happens if this vaccine does go to market? I think this is right back up at those all-time highs. For me, in my opinion, this is more of a trade than an investment. I think the risk, if this thing doesn't work out, you're in trouble, right? If they come out and say, oh, the phase 4 whatever trials didn't work out, we're not going to be able to get this to market for another year, you're in big trouble as an investor. But if it does go to market, you could be realistically looking at a $400 stock. Now, this is not financial advice because remember, I'm entirely too stupid to be your financial advisor. I'm not that, so don't take this as financial advice. This is just my opinion. My opinion is that if this thing doesn't get a vaccine to market, it's going to crash. But if it does get a vaccine to market, it's going to go to the moon. So, the question I have to ask myself as a trader and investor is, can I put on a trade where I limit risk, my reward is bigger than my risk? And I think the answer is yes in this situation. I think there could be a pre-anticipatory move for new trials and new developments in the FDA before any announcement of approval or disapproval comes out. That's just my opinion, and I wanted to share it with you guys because it is a big deal. We know the revenue from these vaxes are absolutely astronomical, and if this company can come to market with the vax, it's a whole new ballgame. As of today, Novavax has a market cap of $12.7 billion with a B billion dollars on income of negative a lot in sales of $1.2 billion. So they're losing money, but they do have sales. They do have products already on the market. This is not some tiny biotech penny stock. This is an established biotech company that if they get this product to market, the stock's going to rocket. But if they don't get the vaccine to market, the stock's going to fall apart. It went from $3.50 to $170 where it's at today. Obviously, there's a lot of downside risk here, but I do think there is also substantial upside potential. Let's break down the overall market, the S&P, the SPYs, and then we'll wrap this sucker up. All right, so the market rebounded nicely last week, but we're showing signs of volatility coming back into the market today. We're getting a little bit of a rounding out action in the overall market. Back here in September, we had this rounding out formation. We sold off. We had it again right here in early November. We got a little bit of a sell-off. We had it a couple weeks ago. Boom, we got a really big sell-off. And now we're getting that rounding out action again. So we're going to need to keep our eyes on the overall market as volatility may be starting to pick back up again. All right, guys, that's going to wrap this thing up. I love all of you, and I'll catch you in tomorrow's video. Until next time, deuces.